Now that you've learned to create some web pages, you'll probably want to start adding some images. Images make a page much more appealing and give the user some interest in your page. Images can be used for many things, uh, either just the image itself, or the image can actually be a map so that you can link from different locations on the image, or the image itself can be a link, a single link. In your validation.js script, there is an image that points to the CSS validation. And if you want to look at something you already have, you can look at that coding and see how that image is used as a link. The image requires an image tag, and the way you write an image tag is to start with an IMG, which stands for image, and then you must say where the location of that image is using the source. SRC stands for source, and then you assign it the location of your image. In this example, the image would be in the same location as this document would be in. And of course, as in our others, if you needed to back up to get out of this folder, the // and if it was in a special images folder, you would add the name of the folder, images / and then the name of the image. You've already done some of that, I think, so well, you have with these with the validation.js. So that gives you an idea of how you can locate an image. Images have a certain size, and that's called the height and the width. And the height and the width is the number of pixels or percentage of the page, but we're going to just work with pixels now, and the number of pixels of the image. And you put the value for that in your, as an attribute in your image tag. It's not required. If you leave off the height and width, then it will default to the height and width of the actual image. However, if you don't put one in, it takes the browser a little longer because it has to size the image and figure out what size it is and then add the height and width itself. So you can save some steps by putting in the height and width of the image. The next part of the image tag is the alt attribute. Now the alt attribute, you might think, oh, well, I don't really have to put that, and you'll see that a lot of examples will have an empty, just alt equals quote quote and nothing inside. But that's not really following strict compliance. We need to be worried about the visually impaired or people that will be viewing your page that can't see the image. And by putting the alt tag, when there's a mouse over, the alt will show, and the software that reads a screen will read the description of the image, so the visually impaired person can know what they would be looking at. It needs to be informative, not too long, and give an accurate description. Also, the alt tag is very helpful because if the image doesn't download, possibly the user has turned off image download, and then you would just get the alt. Some people want this to make their pages load faster, and so the alt text will just be described instead of it. And then also if you link and the image doesn't link or download, it will show the alt text instead of the image. So keep in mind that the alt attribute is a very important attribute as part of your image tag. There's other attributes that you quite often see, and that will be the name and ID attributes. Those are optional, and that depends on how you're going to refer to that image, whether or not you're going to refer with a tag that requires ID or a tag that requires a name. So as you grow when using your images, you'll make that decision. Images have a particular height and width, but you may not want to use that height and width. So if you want the height and width to be a specific size, you can put the height and width that you want, but you really need to stay in what is called the aspect ratio, and that is the original height and width, and how does that compare proportionally to your new. So you put the height divided by the width. If this one was 40 over 100, it would be 40 over 100, and then what is the lowest fractional component of that? It's 2/5. So you have a ratio of 2 to 5. And then as long as your image falls in the ratio of 2 to 5, then it will look correct and just be that size. One of the things you should avoid, though, is making the image bigger. If you have a small image, say you had a 40 by 100 image and you said, I want it to be 80 by 200, that does follow aspect ratio, but you'll get a blurred image. So it's always better to either make it the same size or smaller. It's not real good to make it larger. It just doesn't look as nice. If you don't know the size of the image, one easy way is to open the image in your browser and then right click on the image, and if you're on a PC, select Get Info and then check More Info. If you're on a Mac, right click on the image and select View Image Info, and both ways will give you the dimensions of the actual image, so you'll have something to determine your aspect ratio. As I told you, you could use the image as a link, as I've done in your validation.js, and to do that you put your image tag between your open and close A tags, and where you've done it on your index page, you've put your open A tag and then the name of the link, like if it was to windsurfing or whatever you were linking to, you would put that before your close A tag, or you can put an image instead. Another thing you can do is put the image and text. It may not look as nice to have too much there, but it will still work. So anything between the open A and the close A, anything between that will be your link. We haven't covered submit buttons, but you've all used forms, I'm sure, on the web where you fill something out and click submit. Sometimes you click a picture or click here, what it might say, whatever. Then when you do that, it would be input type is image. You might want to know the references later when we are working with submit buttons. And there again, you have an alt tag and the source. Notice this example, the alt tag, the alt came before the source. The order does not matter. As long as you are within the left angle bracket and the slash right angle bracket, order does not matter. I prefer to put the main attribute at first, and then followed by the other attributes, alt and source, or source and alt. It doesn't matter. Another image is called an image map, and we'll use that for navigation. If you have an image map, you divide that map up into what's called hot zones, and you can click on the hot zone for a link. You can have multiple links on the same image, just in different parts of the image. And let me show you an example of that. Here is a map of Texas, and in this map you see my mouse is over the image and it's just a black arrow as normal, but when I go over the cities, you'll see that the little hand comes up to show you that it is a link. And so each of these links will link to a different location, and this is an image map. The size on the map, it can be determined by a circle, a rectangle, or a special shape. Here at the W3C is an example of how you would set up those locations. And here you have an image, and what's the image source, height and the width, and the alt attributes, and then the tag map, and then the name of the tag, the name of the map is, this is a planet map, and each link is an area. And what shape do I want to use? I can use a shape rectangle, a shape circle, and there's also a shape poly if it's an indeterminate size. And of course a square is a rectangle, so you don't have to have a separate one if you want square. And on that you have to have the coordinates, and that is the X, in this example 0, 0, and the y 82, 126. And that is the coordinates on the page of where that link will be, and then the reference of where it can be found, and the alt. And when the hot zone is clicked or hovered over, you can, depending on how you code it, on whether you code it for a click or code it for a hover, then it will link to that page. And here is the coding we just looked at for the map we just looked at. In this example, it was all rectangles were written for the locations, showing the x and y coordinates. And that x and y coordinate is a diagonal. It's the leftmost, if you have a rectangle, it's the upper left hand corner and the lower right hand corner, and then it creates a rectangle over the left hand corner and the lower right hand corner. So these are the locations of how big an area in pixels will be shown, and you'll see that each one goes to a different location. Page for El Paso, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, and Texas. Here is, this one's used a class. We haven't gotten to that for map, but here is the image where in here, use map attribute. And what map am I going to use? I'm going to use a map that internally I have named Texas. I know it's internal because it has the pound right there, and the name is Texas. We come down here to the map tag, and you see the name. Here we use both an ID and a name, which you can do, and the name is Texas. So I'm going to use the map on the page that is named, and it's on the page because of the pound, and it's named Texas. So this map is using these coordinates. So the use map attribute refers to the name used in the map tag, and the area tag describes the shape of the hot zone. To create a hotspot, you can call it a hotspot or a hot zone, you must know the coordinates of the area for each hotspot. And you can have image software that shows you the coordinates, but you don't have to do that. You can make your own page that if you do that, you can find the coordinates yourself and don't have to buy any software. And using that, you use isMap. The isMap attribute is used to create the graphic element of the image element. So you create a simple HTML document using the isMap, and when it displays and you do a mouse over, you will see in the status bar the actual coordinates. So let me show you that. Using the same Texas map, this had to be done before you create the isMap before you create the useMap. And you'll notice here that the hand is showing, it's not the arrow, and on the bottom of the screen you will see, the bottom of this smaller screen, you will see the coordinates. If I go all the way up in the uppermost left hand corner, I should get location 0, 0. It's real hard to do. For a second I had a 0, 0. But the very most leftmost part of your page is a 0, 0. And remember, this one was 400 by 400, so the very rightmost corner, lower, is, if I can get there, is 400 by 400. And then everything in between is how many pixels over and how many pixels down to find the location. So Austin is at 260 by 236 on this map. And I've given you the coding if you would like to see it on how to code for this. And you don't need a page that validates or anything special. You just, because this is just for your development, this isn't a page that you're going to put out on the web. And so you have to have your HTML tag and your head tag. Actually, your title is not necessary. It's just a habit and it's in there. But then you close your head and open your body. All pages have to have that. You have to have an HTML, you have to have a head to close the head and open the body, close the body and close the HTML. So within that, all I'm going to have is a reference, is the A tag using the href attribute, and notice it has the pound, and that's saying this page. The pound means I'm staying on this page. So the reference goes to the page I am on, which is just this simple page, And what image am I using on it? I'm using the Texas map. It's in the same folder. Its height is 400, its width is 400, and then the isMap attribute. Now the order doesn't matter. You might want isMap up here in front of source. It doesn't matter as long as it's inside the left angle bracket and the /right angle bracket of your image tag. Then you're going to close your anchor tag, close your body, and close your HTML. This is something I consider a lot of fun and something that may be valuable to you, and I hope that you will enjoy using it.